And we have seen, this is not the first time a nation like ours has been subjected to a control by a company. Having been enslaved for 200 years by the East India Company, the Indian farmers know exactly what a company Raj or a company rule feels like. The farmers of Punjab, the farmers of Bengal, the farmers of Kerala, the farmers of all over the country have paid taxes, have, we hear these terrible stories coming out, so that memory still is alive in them. Then we look at countries where this same liberalization, and mind you, this word liberalization is quite misleading, because what the Modi government has done is actually an external liberalization which allows for foreign corporations to come inside and take control of Indian agriculture. It's not an internal liberalization which makes things easier for the farmers or the people of the country. So we look at examples such as Brazil, we look at Mexico, we look at Argentina, and many people from the Member of Parliament's party were very vocal in the parliament when they said that this is done to help Monsanto, help Cargill, help Walmart, and they called it cartel. And I really must appreciate all their party's effort to expose what the government is really doing. But coming back to your question, are these reforms long overdue? Well, first of all, these reforms were never overdue. What the government has done right now has actually pushed a demonetization type agenda, and which is linked to demonetization. We don't always see this together, but the GST, the demonetization, first they took your money, then they put new taxes on you, and third they want to take your grain. So here we're talking about a complete control of not just what you eat, how much you earn, but also how you live your life and monitor every single second of it. And then using stop checks, control the citizenry, control dissent, control protests, which we are seeing. Moving further, we have to again, as Ms. Kota said, that the suicide issue is the major cross-section, which I completely agree with her. When the Punjabi farmer, or just farmers in general, I think the government has been very decisive, or trying to be very, not decisive, but they're trying to break the protest and call it Punjab, and call it Haryana, and call it the Sikhs, and call it, all sorts of bad names. Let me remind everybody that it was the Jallianwala Bagh. Only Punjabis and only Sikhs died. Why did the whole country rise up to support them? When they lost their lives, the country awoke, and in such spirit that the Queen of England was not allowed to visit Amritsar even now. Absolutely. This is another Jallianwala Bagh moment, where the Sikhs are teaching us our own morality. They are exposing the moral degeneracy of our society and corruption. And they are the final force, they are the vanguard of our civilization, not from now, but for the past 5, 6, 1,000 years, who knows how long. The people, they will be the vanguard of society. And today, the vanguard has turned against the emperor. So that is the real implication of these reforms. Finally, I think there's not been much discussion about what these reforms are. So just for the interest of people watching, let me just quickly sum that up. And I'll begin with my most favorite, which is the Essential Commodities Act, which is the least talked about.
Yes.
So it's what happened in the Essential Commodities Act, that the government said that we are going to make an amendment and ensure that now any agro-processor or any person with a warehouse can store as much as he wants. Okay. And at the same time, they've removed essential items from its purview, such as oilseeds, pulses, onions, and other things. Okay. Now, if we just look back to 2015, it was the Modi government who used the Essential Commodities Act to prevent prices of dal rising beyond 200 rupees a kilo. I've suffered. My own house budget went haywire basically when I heard that chicken was less expensive than dal. Now imagine the farmer, the person who's sitting in the villages, who's growing the dal, who sold the dal for maybe 40 rupees or 30 rupees a kilo, has to buy it back from the market at 200, 250. What is the nutritional impact of that? That 2015 step on children, there's nothing written about it. How many people were stunted because dal was beyond their reach?
Also, if we look at the national security angle of that, you're compromising that grievously by not keeping enough stocks of it now.
I'll finish that thought, which is that the IT department conducted an intensive investigation, and they unearthed a 2.5 lakh crore scam. And they said it is the internal reports of the IT department which says that an international cartel led by Glencore was responsible for this, along with other associates. So and then the government used the Essential Commodities Act to bust 75,000 metric tons of coal. So that is the first instance. Second instance is, again, I think Ms. Nima would kind of know this also. The buyer of the corporation has increased the price of cotton seed by 71,000% in 2015-16, and then the government, taking control of that, as cotton seed is part of the Essential Commodities Act, said that we're going to control the price of this in 2015. As they used the Essential Commodities Act, the price was controlled, farmers benefited. But now with this new amendment, they have made the modus operandi of cartels, of food cartels, into law.
But I don't understand this approach that on the one hand you're all in for controlling prices as a government, and on the other hand you're talking about free markets and that the market's true. So I think this is a bit of contradiction there.
Well, you're very right, but I think this is the question you asked, that who is all these reforms done for?
Yeah.
I think the government's intention is very clear, and the Honourable Member from Parliament also highlighted. But look at what's happened in America. Four corporations control 84% of the world of American food. And another four corporations control 70% of the world's grains. And now you're allowing these corporations, as Mr. Modi has already said many, many times, that we want FDI in agriculture, we want companies to invest in agriculture, and allow agri-dollars. So see, all this is being done to get agri-dollars into the country.
So these examples that we're giving from the world across clearly show that without adequate regulation, the nature of this industry is to turn into a duopoly or an oligopoly.
Absolutely.
That's perhaps we are headed with this.
I see a more dire picture which says that in case, for example, you protest, the food supplies to your village or your house can be taken off because private corporations and silos will now keep all our food.
Right.
That's where all this is headed. And naturally, big companies like Cargill are having a ball. We've already seen buyer stock prices. They made a prediction in January that we are going to be making double-digit growth in India. And if you understand that even deeper, Bayer, Cargill, and all these companies in the world are actually owned by a few investment funds like Vanguard and BlackRock. So the money stays with the person who has money, and they make more money because of these reforms. It's nothing to do with Indian farmers. In fact, it is a sacrifice of the Indian farmers on the altar of corporate Wall Street.
Thank you, Rishika, for that. And let me bring in Upasana over here, and let me ask you from the fundamental question, of course, that do you think that these reforms were long overdue, and B, legally speaking, the way that these reforms have been done, and the Honourable Member of Parliament also talked about something that I'd like to talk a lot more about, is the relationship between the centres and the state. And as the Honourable Member of Parliament mentioned, and as a lot of people are highlighting, that the centre has overstepped its authority. So is it in the spirit of federalism what has happened over here?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Thank you for the question. And see, as a lawyer and a law professor, I always look at acts and find out what is not visible. And there is many things which are not visible and which are not talked about. Just before starting this session, me and Idrishik and we were talking about Aldous Huxley and George Orwell. And that is what dystopia does to you. We are calling these farm laws farm reforms. They are not reforms. They are just laws which are being showcased as reforms. So my point is that there are three things which I will highlight in these acts. The first is the way it was introduced. For example, Mr. Kumar would be more, because he was present, he witnessed the entire drama, and I cannot even, if anybody watched the way it was passed in Rajya Sabha on 2nd September, it was a shameful day for a democracy. Because you know what, important bills are not passed by voice vote. And if there is a call, voice vote is basically a procedure in Parliament where the chair, in case of Rajya Sabha, the chairman, and in this case the deputy chairman, he called for passing of a bill, and he said that, and if you watch that video, he's reading from a paper. And the chair is supposed to listen to the house and understand whether the eyes are louder or the nose are louder. But what the chairman did, I set the bill, I give the bill to the members, and people who are members who are in favor say aye, members who are in favor say no. I believe that the ayes are louder, the bill is passed. And this, the honorable
was
chair,
already written on the paper.
That was the chair was reading it, and you can see it on Rajya Sabha. And then when the opposition members, they came to the bell, they ran towards the chair. Then there was a brief pause. You know what, on Rajya Sabha TV, on YouTube channel, if you listen to that video, there is a 3-second mute on YouTube. So that 3-second mute is when the member parliament would obviously tell me that members demanded a division. The division is when there is an actual voting done and the votes can be counted.
Right.
So that division is not.
Did not happen.
No, that is when the members they took out their phones and they started recording it because the Rajya Sabha TV was showing Lok Sabha.
So we really don't know for sure if all of our parliamentarians, please, I want to bring you in over here, yes.
The rule book of the Rajya Sabha is very clear on this matter. If any member demands a division, every one member, the chair has a duty and seats.
It's a duty, the regulations.
But in this case, many members, including me, from all seats, whether it is COVID situation, many of us are or somewhere with the lobby, somewhere with the gallery, somewhere with the house of
Of course, you're being responsible and you're being...
4 centers were there. But many people from these 4 centers demanded from their seats for a division. But she mentioned it here on this paper. This part was not there.